Live at 5 here. Live at 5. Okay, I'm live on the other side. Shelly Ann Thompson, welcome to the discussion. Questions, comments? Nope. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go over here and make sure I just shared the link. I'm over on under the palm. So I'm just gonna make sure this thing is showing properly. Of late, YouTube has been spazzing out on the kid. Mika, welcome to the discussion. YouTube, disobedient. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for chiming in, Brandon. Disobedience in the manner that the first man and woman in question reading the fruit. Give me some more, Brandon. Let me get some more, Brandon. Oh, I turned this thing too far. Can I get some more? Can I get some more on that thought? And in addition to Brandon, feel free to share. Can I get some more on that thought? Welcome you to the discussion. This is a little bit of a Torah study. Just this, so weird. This thing, Naga. YouTube has changed on me, everyone. It's not the way it used to be. And I haven't been over here for so long. And every time I come, it gives me problems. I might just have to read out my findings, and that would be okay too. Because I don't see where, this is not a hangout, so I don't even see where, I don't see where I'm supposed to show my screen, everything. Anywho, and Brandon, you want to give us some more on that before we go in? You eating, Brandon? Anyone else? While Brandon is eating, original sin. What was the first disobedience? As if we want to describe sin, which is transgressing the laws of the Creator, transgressing a boundary, missing the mark. Hiram, welcome to the discussion. And that's what sin is. It's a goal, it's a mark, and you miss it. You went beyond it, and you missed the mark, right? And so what was the first instance of missing the mark? Brandon says he's eating, simply disobeying. But I need more, y'all. Y'all know I'm about to, I need more. More than disobeying, more than simply disobeying. Okay, in what way? In what way? You going on YouTube, sis? I wish YouTube was doing right. I just went straight live and I don't see where I can share my screen. When the Most High questioned Adam, he blamed Eve. She turned and blamed the serpent. Okay. Anyone else? Thank you so much, Brandon. Anyone else? I'll give you a hint. It's in the 10 Commandments. It's in the 10 Commandments. I give a hint. It's in the 10 Commandments from what I found. And surely, if you found something else, hey, be like a moon out. You don't know what you're talking about, man. I found something else, and that don't sound right. It's in the 10 Commandments. It's a prohibition that's in the 10 Commandments that leads us to believe that this is something that needed to be codified, written down, served to us, and said time and time again. This thing right here is distracting me. It's a picture. It's a picture. Paint therapy, but it's distracting me. Right. So it's in the 10. Isaac Buffin, welcome to the discussion. It's in the 10 Commandments, y'all. Anybody? Okay, YouTube, thank you for joining us. My only issue is I was under the impression I was going to be able to share my screen. I don't see no share screen buttons. So we're just going to go in. All right. So I named this one Private Sins, Public Shame. Private sins, public shame. I'm a visual learner as well. And so, again, I wanted the visual learners to be able to kind of read along, but it's all to the good. It's all to the good. Private sin, public shame. Okay, so I was deliberating on, let me backtrack a little bit. I prefaced this conversation because I wanted to say that what you're going to get from my discussion about Torah is, yes, there's history. Yes, our forefathers did this, this, and this. This is all on record. This is very important. Over the years, my question is, okay, now what? When we learn it, now what? How do we internalize it? How do we apply it? How do we materialize what it is that was left on record? How do we cleanse the soul? How do we do all of these things? This is why I speak about the soul so much. I speak about growth and I speak of all of these things because as we can see, knowledge is not going to, knowledge only, let me say, is not going to get you to where you think you want to go. It's not necessarily going to change who you are. It's not going to make you necessarily a better person unless you apply it. I've been saying it. I will continue to say it. Now, the quest for knowledge, if we go back to the garden, that it was the quest for becoming wise. And we see that caused a great transgression. That quest just to become wise, and I'm not going to go too deep because then I'm going to give it away real quick, right? Don't have any other, okay, Ima says, don't have any gods. Aru, welcome to the conversation. Brandon says the first commandment while eating the fruit was a challenge to the authority of the Most High. Idolatry for listening to another besides the Most High. All right, so we're gonna go in. This might be a whopper. I didn't have anybody say it yet, so this might be like what? So let's go in. Okay. So what was the first sin is the first question. I said take a moment, just a moment, to think about the first recorded sin. This is why I asked you while I was trying to get this thing going. Just take a moment. Once you have it, say it aloud, which many shared. Thank you so much. And some is probably still thinking about it. Or write it down. Right? We're going to pause the video and locate in the Bible. Take a minute to become familiar with the details of the story. Yeshua, welcome to the conversation. Sharon, welcome to the conversation. Okay? And so we just did that. We took a moment. And so let's go to the book of Genesis. Yosef, welcome to the conversation. Let's go to the book of Genesis. I'm rusty. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good, Iman. It's all good. So we're going to go to the book of Genesis. And we're going to take a look at Genesis 2. Okay. Shalom, Antonia. Shalom, sister. How you doing? Welcome to the discussion. If you have your text open, please go to Genesis 2, Bereshit chapter 2. We're asking about the first sin. The hint was that it's in the commandment. Okay, Brandon is saying wise in his own eyes, wise in your own conceit. Maybe, Brandon. Let's see. We're gonna go there. Why is this thing acting so crazy? See, this is what happens when you go on a new computer. Help me. Genesis. And the tools are on the other computer. It's all good. Okay, we're in Genesis chapter 2. And it says, I'm going to give you a clue here. Okay, Genesis, if you don't know, make yourself familiar with the book of Genesis. It's gems in there. But I'm going to go to where the Most High is creating. Hold on. Okay, Genesis 2 and 8, right? No, let me back up a little bit. 2 and 7. And the Most High, hallelujah, formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul. And the Most High planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. I'm just giving a little backstory. 9 says, and out of the ground made the Most High power to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of good and evil. Remember that. We're going to come back there, but we're going to continue right now. So in the midst of the garden, man is created. We know that Most High created male and female, created he them. Okay. The tree is in the midst of the garden. It's pleasant to the sight, good for food. Okay. We're going to go on a little bit here. Hold on. I don't want to give it away yet. So we're going to keep reading. Hold up. We're going to keep reading. So the Most High puts man in the midst of the garden. Okay. He says it's not good for man to be alone. He creates woman. out of men. And then Adam sees her and says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, and the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed. Okay. Why am I? Usually I will read the entire thing, but I'm going to keep going here. The next chapter begins with this discussion between the Nakash, or the serpent, and Eve. Why is that important? Remember, I want you to remember the tree in the midst of the garden, and that tree that was off limits, which was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This tree is off limits. Okay, when the serpent comes and speaks to her, he says, and 3 and 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. Hold on one second. I missed something because I wanted to give the prohibition. Hold on. Let's go back. And I gotta be like, Amuna, you missed something. Hold on. No, I said it. I'll read it again. And out of the ground made the Most High to grow every tree that is pleasant to the eye and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Why does she keep saying that? We're going to go back. Now I can go forward. 3 and 1. You missed the lecture, sis. I was just telling the people. Hallelujah. I was just telling the people, man. Sometimes you got to, you got to do what you have to do. But, all praise be to the Most High. We're going to go to 3 and 1 now. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Most High have made. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath the Most High said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the tree of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, he hath said, ye shall not eat, neither shall ye touch, lest ye die. And if we've done the Torah portion, if we've read this on our own, we will realize that she, at this point, when questioned, changed a bit of the narrative to you shall not touch it lest you die, right? And this is the foothold. This is where he was able to navigate into her mind to begin to play with the prohibition that the Most High gave. Okay, it says, and the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die. So he's like, nah, mine not gonna happen to you. You tripping? You know what I mean? Why are you acting like that? It's all good. And then he goes on to say, and for Elohim doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Okay? Remember, this is the tree of the knowledge of what? Good and evil. The conversation is you are not supposed to eat of this tree. Everything else is for your consumption. This tree of knowledge of good and evil, don't eat of it, lest you're going to die. And the serpent said unto him, you not gonna happen to you. You should not surely die. 5. For the Most High doth know in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. 6. And when the woman saw, when she used her eyes and saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes. Pleasant to the eyes. Remember, it was already created pleasant to the eyes. We read that in chapter 2, right? This wasn't new. It wasn't newly present to the eyes. It always was pleasant to the eyes because it was always created. When we went back, and I'm going to go back and reread that, because remember, the question is, what's the first sin, the original sin? And then later on, what does that have to do with us? Because this is all about showing you, right? And the tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. I wanted to make note that this word here, pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desired to make one wise. That word desire, as we go back to my study that no one can see because I can't put it up, we just clicked some clues out of Genesis 2 and Genesis 3. We have pleasant to the eyes. We have desired. We have this desire to make one wise. And this internal dialogue that happened when we begin to change the narrative, when we begin to change that which the Creator has left on record, and when we try to tweak it to or add or take away from it, it opens up a doorway for transgression, for sin to occur. Okay. So I'm going to present to you or submit to you that possibly the first sin was the 10th commandment. Now, can anybody tell me what the 10th commandment is? What is the 10th commandment? This is why I named it private sin, public shame. What is the 10th commandment? Nunu tribe, welcome to the discussion. Anybody? What's the 10th commandment? Kaylee, welcome to the discussion. Come on now, y'all just rolled up out the Shabbat. You know what the 10th commandment is. What is the 10th commandment? Anybody, feel free to type. I'll wait. 10th commandment. Remember, this is for soul growth. This is for spiritual growth and edification. When we're young and we're getting the information and we're getting the foundation, we're just putting it in there and really not knowing how it applies or how to apply it. You know what I'm saying? How to use it in our lives, how to better ourselves. So we kind of just repeat rhetorically. We use rhetoric to go back and forth with one another. But then you ask the question, okay, how are you doing in this area? Are you really understanding what's happening in the story? There's so many different ways in which the story can be interpreted, but this is kind of on the surface. It's on the surface if we look a little bit, because indeed we're going to look a little bit into the Hebrew to begin to find out the word that we're looking for here. But what is the 10th commandment? Anyone? Everyone? All together now? All together now? Okay. Nobody? Hold on. Let me go over here and make sure I didn't miss anything on the YouTube side while I'm waiting for the 10th commandment on the Facebook side. Hold on. Y'all probably eating or it's a little bit slow to the draw. Hold on. The 10th commandment is, all right, I'm going to tell y'all. You guys should know the 10th commandment. It's do not covet. Do not covet. Do not covet. Okay. What is coveting? What is coveting? What did Eve do? What did she do at first? What did she do in her mind? What took place? What took place was correct. Thank you, Sharon. That you don't covet. And it's all the way at number 10. And we're like, oh, it's all the way over there. But when we look at the discussion of what happened in the garden, whether you believe it was a serpent or it was the Nakash or it was a spiritual being, there was something that happened within that discussion or that exchange that allowed alternate information to come into her mind so that she can deliberate, but she's deliberating with false information. And then she began to use her senses, which is what we use to covet: our eyes, our hands, our nose, our mouth, our ears. We use our physical senses to covet. If usually when you go into a store and they be like, oh, that's so nice, and they put it in your hand and they say, touch it. Or you go down and you're walking in the mall and the perfume counter person sprayed on you. What do they say? Smell it. Right? Or they see a new car or a new outfit, they say, look at it, because they want it to enter in to your consciousness. However, through whatever sensory mechanism, be it your taste, touch, like you learned when you was 4 years old, all of the ways, these are your senses. They wanted to be able to enter into your space so that you begin to deliberate on it and see whether or not, can I afford it? Do I want it? So coveting is what runs our society. That's why advertising is a multi-million-dollar industry, because I have to get you to want it. And once I get you to want it, then you're going to go about ways in which to get it. Okay. And how do I know this? There's a Muna making this up. We read back again. The clue was that in Genesis 2:9, it was pleasant to the eyes. The Creator created it pleasant to the eyes. This discussion that she's having in Genesis 3 doesn't determine whether or not it's pleasant to the eyes. It was always what it was, but she never necessarily had a desire towards it. Okay. She didn't express a wanting of it. And so again, Genesis 3:6, when the woman saw the tree was good for food, remember, she already had food. You had all the food in the garden except for this. So you weren't hungry. Hunger wasn't your issue. And that it was pleasant to the eyes wasn't your issue. So hunger wasn't your issue because you could eat whatever it is that you wanted except for this. The pleasant to the eyes was the issue because you was in Gan Eden. You was in the garden. You didn't have an issue. It's not like you was in the slums. You know what I'm saying? You were in the ghetto and you just finally saw a rose that grew from concrete. That wasn't the case. You were in what is described with paradise. It says, and a tree to be desired. This was her reasoning to make one wise. Although he gave the serpent, the Nakash gave this faulty reasoning. This latter one is what she began to say to make one wise because she had everything else. It says she took thereof the fruit and did eat. That was the first transgressing, the coveting in the mind. And then that coveting in the mind then allows you to put forth your hand. It's going to make you want to draw to you that which you desire. When you have a little child and child's on the back and they have a little wrinkly thing and they make the child want it and the child wants it and the child begins to reach their hand towards to get it, to bring it closer to you. Whatever it is that desired object is, person, place, thing, object, whatever it is. Okay. Devon, welcome to the conversation. This is about spiritual growth. This is about the simplicity of it, and then being able to take the lessons and the information and discussion and go back into your spaces and begin to prune your own garden. You know what I'm saying? Take out certain things out of your own space that is causing you hurt, pain, and all of these other things. So we have some more clues. I gave you that. Deuteronomy 7:25 says, the graven images of their deities shall you burn with fire. It says, you shall not desire the silver or gold that is on them. Okay? Don't desire them. Don't covet the silver or gold, because the thought is, yo, I don't got to throw that whole thing away. I could still use that. Right? It has value. And it says, nor take it unto you, lest you be snared therein. For it is an abomination unto the Creator. Deuteronomy 7:26 says, neither bring the abomination into your house, lest you be a cursed thing like it. So when we lust after things that are off limits, that are forbidden, that are prohibited, and you bring it onto yourself and make yourself one with this thing, then you now have defiled yourself as the thing is defiled. And so it's there's a mechanics to it, there's a simplicity to it, but we do it so often on an everyday basis on low levels and high levels, and we just mark it off as I want it. That's what we say, I want it, so I'm going to do it. And it's not necessarily the best thing for us as individuals, families, communities, and people. So let me see here. The word is chamad, which is chet mem dalet. Chet mem dalet. What does Genesis account and Exodus prohibition have in common? And the word is chamad. That is the word when she saw it and she desired it. That was the word chamad. And this word can be used both positive and negative, but we see negative prohibitions. And as Brandon says, we see negative prohibitions against coveting your neighbor's possessions, because that's off limits to you. That belongs to someone else. This tree was a forbidden object. So it was off limits. So we have desire and covetousness having to do with something that belongs to someone else, or something that was expressly told to you is off limits, but you want it anyway. So you're going to break down the boundaries. You're going to break down the fence. You're going to transgress the bounds to get this thing onto yourself. This is what happened. This is what snowballed, because it's a private sin. It's something that happens internally. It's something that happens in the mind. The only time we know when it happens is when it manifests. The only time, if we wouldn't have known she coveted if she didn't go for it and touch it and bring it onto herself. Right? So this is where you're allowed to have that battle of to be able to check yourself. This is the law that you are supposed to use to govern yourself, because as we know, it's a snowball effect. If you covet, more than likely you're going to steal. If you covet, If you steal, you're gonna lie. If you get caught, you're gonna do the Daweed. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna go for your riot, and then it's gonna snowball, snowball, snowball. And so this one, although often overlooked, is something that is rooted in spiritual growth and development, because it's something that we need to be constantly aware of. I go back to, it says this verb has both a positive and negative. I shared that. Genesis 2:16 says, again, of every tree of the garden you may eat freely. 17 says, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. So there goes the prohibition. The thought of desire before the act of eating. Yes. Hey, Devon, how you doing? It's the reaching out for, it's the wanting of, you know what I can go for right now. It's that conversation that we have with ourselves countless times. But are we aware of that? Are we able to rein in our thoughts to find out what's going on that half before it manifests? This is the spiritual, this is the crux of the matter. This is the crux of the matter. This is where this is where it lies at. This is where everything, again, like I said. Wait a minute, I'm hold on, that's the babies. I'm live. Y'all see why I had to be like all the way in the room, and they still gonna come find me. And now we see why this has been passed down in the DNA. Correct, it's in the DNA, and there are DNA studies now that talk about genetics and epigenetics and the what is in the system and passed on through the genes throughout the generations. And so if we look to control it after it's gone through the grate, it's much more difficult to control than it is to teach someone to be aware of, number one, know yourself, be aware of your desires, be aware of what you're leaning towards and what you're bringing onto yourself, because it's going to determine everything else that's happening in your life. Okay? So we already established the tree was off limits. We already established that the tree, she has this conversation. She brings in, adds it to the law, brings in more information. She acts on this desire or this kamad, and it causes her to transgress. First transgression. Okay. Just weights and balances. How do we know that Amun is not all the way bugging out? The Creator says just weights and balances. Actually, Solomon says just weights and balances is the Most High's delight. And it's talking about, back in the day, there wasn't a across the board shekel or system. And so you had things that people would measure, so it's this amount of corn to this amount of monies. And some people would have loaded weights and cheating, and you would be getting more for less. And so a just weight and balance is what brings justice and balance, basically. And so how do we know that her issue had to do with something to do with coveting, something to do with what is internal? It says Eve's desire kamad was towards growing wise. We read that in the text. In this case, it was a negative form of coveting because the fruit was forbidden. Genesis 3:16. Here's the judgment. The Most High speaks to, after they said, it's not me, it's her, it's not me, it's him. After we had that round robin conversation, it goes on to say, and your desire shall be to your husband, right? And oftentimes we argue about what that means. There's more of the judgment. It talks about your childbirth and the way in which you're going to rear children. This desire in English is translated as desire, but it's not the same desire that is before, but it's related. Okay. The shuka, the tet, the sheen, the wild, the kuf, and the hay means stretching out after, longing after, a desire for, stretching out towards the man, right? What was she stretching out towards before? The promise of wisdom. Okay, her desire had her towards wisdom, and she's stretching out towards the desire of wisdom. Now in the judgment, the judgment is one of the parts of the judgment is you're going to stretch out for, you're going to long for, desire for, lean towards what? The husband. Not just any man, because then that's another conversation. Tina, welcome to the conversation for another day. Not just any man, but for the husband. And so we see a just weight and balance here, that because she leaned towards one area, if she had leaned towards the husband, hypothetically, and he is the zakar because the male is the zakar, and he was supposed to remember, if she leaned towards him at that particular time, there's a possibility that he would have reminded her, because he's supposed to remind her. I don't know what he did when he brought it to her before she does it, right? He's supposed to remind her, and they're supposed to balance each other. That's what the Azer Kanibdo whole conversation is about this balance that's supposed to be brought with the masculine and feminine energy. that didn't happen. And so the Creator levies a judgment that's supposed to keep this relationship in balance. I'm going to continue. Let me know if I've lost anybody, if I've made it as plain and clear as I could. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And feel free to go over the text as well. So we have that. It says, again, Exodus 20 and 17. Again, forbidding things that are off limits, other people's property. If you're back from the 90s, there was a conversation about OPP, by Naughty by Nature. OPP, I'm not going to sing the song. You're down with OPP. They're saying, you know me. Okay, we're not supposed to be down with OPP. Don't be down with OPP. How much time did I say? Do not be down with OPP. Exodus 20 and 17, thou shalt not covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. We again see this conversation of covetousness. And we have stories that I will give you the text and you can read at your own discretion, stories of this covetousness and how it causes humanity time and time again to spiral out of control because we have not learned to govern and master the self. Okay. It said, nor anything is your neighbor's, in case you were confused about what it means. It says, well, coal, meaning anything, and or anything. Don't want their shoelace. Don't, I like your head wrap. Don't start snatch the head wrap off their head. And we're going to go into that because this is the area that it's secret, but it's revealed through words, through actions, through looks. And as we go along, this is what I won't go ahead of myself. So I'll say that. So things people covet. I hope you guys, no OPP, Sharon, no OPP. I hope you guys are going to participate at this point. Let me share some things that in your estimation, in your experience, people have coveted, that people covet. Name some things that people, we just heard house, their manservant, their maidservant, which could be their status. What are some things that people covet? Feel free to share at this time. Feel free to share on the YouTube. I see. What are some things that people covet? We're not going to go too much longer. What's OPP used to sing, but never knew what it meant? Other people's property. You down OPP? Yeah, you know me. Other people's property. OPP. The Torah say you cannot be done with OPP. So I call welcome to the conversation. Other people's property. I'm not going to start singing it because that, what? Anybody? I'll give some things people covet. Let me know if I missed any. House. People covet houses. This is why you have all these television shows, showing you the big house lifestyles of the rich and famous. Some die with a name, some die named, houses, cars, land. Those are tangible things. Money, tangible things. Clothes, tangible things. Property, tangible things. Beauty. We're living in a day and age where people covet other people's lips and other people's hair and other people's skin and other people's nose and other people's jewelry. Yeah, other people's eyebrows. Like coveting is on level 10. Like, oh my goodness, your eyebrows. I wish I had those eyebrows. I want those eyebrows. Like, whoa, okay. So coveting right now is at like high degree. And this is why we see so much downturn in the society because everybody wants what they don't have, right? Spouse, money, house, clothing, hair, love. Those are tangible. Then we have some intangible things like love. Oh, they covet the love that they see a spouse is giving to another spouse and they want that. The person's life, the person's status, where the person is in their life. That's why they dangle the little carrot in front of you and be like, you can be this too. You can do this too. The ways other look. Thank you, Delencia. The ways other look. This is where we are. But when we look at the text, what entered into the world, it was through the eyes, desire, the senses, covetousness, right? Where I come from, there's a saying, want to can't get it, and get to no want it. The person who wants it all the time can't get it. They're coveting and can't get it. And the person who possesses it doesn't want it. Want it, can't get it, and get it, and want it. But we cover intellect, calling. Somebody can sing, or somebody can dance, or somebody has whatever it is they have, and people like, I want that. If I had that, then I would get blah, blah, blah. But remember, the original thing, the thought that the narrative says that she wanted, that Kawa wanted, was wisdom. She wanted to be wise. And in doing so, to a certain degree, we lost it. Because our wisdom was in our connection with the Creator. And when we lost that connection and we had to now go in other ways in which to reconnect, it made us not wise. Right? So again, we have some lists, a good list here of things that people covet of other people. We see that it entered in long, long ago, and this thing passes through generation to generation, and in some societies becomes so normalized that we don't bat an eye at it, and we only look at the covetousness when it manifests to hurt others and not really address it before it gets to that point. I have a real story. Today we went out. There was the Veg Fest, and I went, I didn't work today, so we were just looking around. And so we coming home now in the car, and my son says, Mommy, because when they go out to work, people give us tips. And so he said, Mommy, their tip box was fat. And I said to him, son, don't watch other people's tip box. But this is where it starts. It's natural. You're looking, you associate with a tip. I said, don't watch other people's tip box, because you don't know what they went through, how early they woke up, how long it took them to prepare, how much money they invested. I was always told, don't watch people things. Don't watch what someone else has, because you don't know whether they beg, steal, or borrow to come in possession of it. You don't know if they're righteous or wicked. So it doesn't make you a better person to want or to covet that which someone else has. And I explained to him and he understood, but that's where it starts. The thought of, okay, they have it, it's bigger, it's more, it's better, I want it for myself. We must check that evil within us. Correct. So we talked about some things that people covet. We showed possibly, and if anybody's out there like, Amuna, you bugging out, I want to talk to you about this, hey, respectfully, feel free to reach out. We're going to give some verbiage now of covetous people or covetous thought that may reside within us, or that may reside in our environment, which we are calling today, in this day and time, toxicity, toxic friends, toxic environment, toxic mental thoughts. It comes with a verbiage. It cannot hide. Although it may try to hide, it cannot hide. And if we, yes, ma'am. Hey, mommy. I'm doing something,
I found white stuff on my keys.
Okay, go and come back when mommy's finished, okay? Go. Mommy's doing live, will you? Okay, dapat. I will. She's like, you live? Let me talk to you a little more, lady. What was I saying? That's why I'm sitting on this hard behind stool, y'all, trying to hide from the baby. Okay, verbiage covetous people use, or a covetous thought. It's a programming. It's a virus. I like to say that a lot of our shortcomings, a lot of humanity in general, it's a virus that enters our system and it begins to manifest itself in different ways. So this is a virus that enters the system that if unchecked, it becomes a personality. There's a behavior, there's a thought, then there's a practice that then later on becomes the personality, that later on becomes the character. Okay, so verbiage covetous people use is, I'm so jealous of you. I'm so jealous of your, like I said, your hair. I'm so jealous of the texture of your hair. I'm so jealous of whatever the person is jealous of. When you hear that verbiage, you don't like, there's my father always saying, when you sit up in a pint, right? So when you hear this verbiage, take note of it. Because sometimes if you move too quick, the person, the entity, the energy just dissipates, and then you might be in an argument about, I didn't say that, and this, that, and the third. So sometimes it's good to just take a step back and observe and listen, right? Listen intently. I'm jealous of you. This is, girl, I'm so jealous of you. That type of verbiage is not That's something that's telling you something, even though it's passing it off in a joking manner. If the person says, I envy you, envy, I don't know when envy became a good thing. Okay. But envy, let's look up the actual word in English, if we may, just for a minute. Bear with me, y'all. And again, if you guys could come up with some verbiage and verbiage that we may have within ourselves and may not be aware that, you know what, I say that. A feeling of discontent or resent, longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. When did envy become a good thing? Desire to have a quality possession or the desirable attribute belonging to someone else. I don't know when envy became a good thing. I have heard people say, looking at your children, or they would die for someone's eyelashes. I'm like, if you died, how would you enjoy the eyelashes? I'm confused. Anaya, welcome to the conversation. And so we oh gosh, we hear these things, and we hear them all around us. We hear them all around us all the time. But maybe we've become so immune and not realizing that the basis of this, the root of this, is covetousness. The person wants what it is that you possess because in their mind they don't have it. I wish I could. I wish I could. I wish I could do this. I wish I could be you. I wish I could walk like you. I wish I could jump. All of these thoughts are based in a place that if we don't watch it, we'll just, again, I'm coming out of Genesis. That's why I took you through the check of Genesis. I asked about the original sin and in your estimation, what you thought it was. We found it in the commandments. We find it throughout the text. We even find clues of how it works. We saw that in Deuteronomy, like, don't take that on to yourself. Abner, welcome to the conversation. Because once you do, you're going to cleave onto it. And as we continue, we're going to see some of why and how you begin to cleave onto these things, even though you know it's not something that you should possess. Another verbiage of covetous, or a covetous thought, a covetous entity, a covetous person, you make me sick because you're so much blah, blah, blah. So they take whatever the gift or the ability or the possession is and give it a negative spin and then project onto the person why they feel discontent with the person. And usually it's because of some type of possession that the person has. This is why we see it in the 10th commandment. I would take your place in a heartbeat. These are the thoughts that you have to, if we're having them in our mind, because this is all about, we're infected. Just go ahead and say we're infected with a viral type of thinking, an attitude, a disposition, a personality, character. Just go ahead and admit it, we're infected with this stuff. And so to say that I'm not or you're not, people have it on different levels, and everybody's battle is not the same. So as opposed to saying you wrong, you wrong, you wrong, say, wow, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's not my struggle. Maybe this is. Maybe somebody doesn't struggle with covetousness. Maybe they struggle with pride. Maybe they don't. You see what I'm saying? And so this is first for the individual, first to internalize for yourself and search your own system and mind and heart and ask the Creator to help before we go around and be like, yep, that's covet. Yep, you're a hater. That's another term we use. Then when we see somebody coveting or desiring or being negative, as we say in this day and age, then the first thing we go to is being a hater. But what is beneath that spirit? What is governing that individual, their mind, their thought processes? If only I could, such and such like you. Yeah, where we come from, the Caribbean, they call it bad mind or red eye. You know what I'm saying? If the person, you always see that person wanting to switch places with you, that person wanting to be in your position, right? Not content necessarily with their position, not really wanting to work on their position, kind of just wanting to take your position. And we see that covetousness. Okay, we go on to after Adam and Eve, we see Cain and Abel. There's a conversation about whose accepted offering and whose offering is not accepted. And that leads to a desire of coveting the praise that the other one got, coveting the acceptance that the other one got, coveting the approval that the other one got. And so because this individual, Cain, wants what Abel got and didn't get it, then it burned within him and he became angry. And then he did what? Violated another commandment. You are so lucky. These type of conversations, we think they're compliments, but really they're kind of like backhanded compliments. And on the other side of the hand are these roots, things that are rooted in covetousness. So we're going to continue on. Thank you for sticking with us. Let me know if you're getting the value out of this. You can read at your own discretion, 1 Samuel 8 and 5. I put this down because this thought often comes to me when I hear the argument about Messiah kingship. When you look at 1 Samuel 8 and 5, it says, and unto him, behold, this is the people that coming to Samuel. Samuel is old, and his sons are not going to go in his stead. He says, behold, you are old, and your sons walk not in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us. And then what they say? Like all the nations. So whether or not Israel, our foreparents, coveted the monarchical system that the other nations had, they wanted to be like unto the other nations. They wanted to look like unto the other nations. This is coveting their system and saying that's, and this is why that when you continue to read the text, Samuel is upset and the creator is upset. And then what the creator goes on to say, don't worry, Samuel, they didn't reject me. They rejected me because they coveted that which someone else had. And by extension saying what you have is better and what we have is less than. And so we want what you have. So in the situation of asking for a king, it was never a good situation because it was a rejection of the creator. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm almost done. Sorry, I couldn't see the presentation. So we have 1 Samuel, read the whole chapter. Joshua 7, the sin of Achan, coveting. Micah 2, talking about coveting land. And we also have Ahab. All right. And we also have Dawid. Thank you. Dawid is a good example as well. And we see how the 10th commandment, once breached, it causes you to lie, causes you to steal, it causes you to murder, causes you to commit adultery, it causes you to do all these things, break the Shabbat. It's a downward effect, and it all starts in here and in here. And we also read Dawid, read Joshua, the son of Achan, Micah 2, as well as Ahab 1, which is the story of Ahab 1, 1 Kings 21, which is the story of Ahab and coveting the plot of land and wanting it for himself. And you could go on to see what happens and what comes as a result of that. So already, remember the word is kamad. So we're going to go on breaking down the elements of coveting, which we've been doing to a certain degree. The word, if you look it up, again, it's the chet, the mem, and the dalet, kamad, a desire to covet. What I found interesting within that word is the root heat, which is ham, the chet, and the mem, which we say ham, heat, ham, heat, hot. That is also a root within the word covet. And usually desire, when somebody, fire and desire, right? When somebody has desire, it heats up within you. You want it, it gets you excited, it gets your blood flowing, it's heating this. And so when something, and I was thinking, okay, wow, heat, that's interesting. And what do you do with heat? You want to draw near to it. If it's cold, if wherever you are is not inviting, something that's warm and inviting, you want to draw nigh onto it, or something that is heated, it allows something to be adhered to it easier than if it was not, right? And so that word is also within desire, as well as chad, which is the chet, and the dalet, which is this oneness. If whatever you desire, you're going to reach for it. At the point that Hawa or Eve reaches for the fruit, she became one with it. She reached it and brought it unto herself and then consumed it. And that's kind of the basic principles of how desire works. You have it. When you ruminate on it, you think about it, it becomes stronger, it grows, the heat continues to expand within you. Eventually, you can't hold yourself anymore. You reach your hand for it, you bring it onto yourself, you become one with it, and it defiles you. So where does the desire or coveting take place? We spoke a little bit about that. Your mind, your heart, your soul, it takes place. It can come in through your senses. This is why the television has 50 million commercials and 50 million billboards and all of these things to entice you, to bring you in, to influence you to do and act in the way in which the person who has whatever they have for you. Sorry, wants you to. So when someone covets, they connect themselves with the object of the desire emotionally, mentally, and sometimes spiritually, long before they consume or partake of it. But how does this work? And we just spoke about it, right? And I give like a little imagery. Imagine yourself camping outdoors on a cold day. You didn't have time to prepare, but your neighbor did. You just so happened to peer out your tent to see and feel the warm glow of your neighbor's fire. His fire looks so toasty and inviting. You're drawn towards it. You want to be one with their fire, but it's not yours. What will you do next? If you were in that situation, you didn't prep, you didn't prepare, you wasn't ready, it's cold, and you were like, what's that in my fire out there? What will you do next? What is your next move? Because that's going to determine character. Would you approach the person and be like, you know what, honestly, such and such happened and I didn't have an opportunity. Like, can I get a little bit of your fire and bring it over here? Do you mind? Characters are going to determine what you're going to do next, right? And that's just a little illustration. Another thing about fire is that it's in the Hebrew terms, it's within the word for man and woman, which is Ish and Isha. The Aleph and the Sheen is fire. H, fire, right? And so this desire, again, that fire resides within us. We have all of the elements of the earth within us. Water, they say your body is 60 to 70% water. Wind, I'm breathing. Ruach, wind is within you. Earth, your body is made up of the elements of the earth, the minerals of the earth. That's why you have to eat balanced food, because the minerals of the earth are what comprise of your body, flesh, earth. Okay, I said water and fire. When somebody is when the spirit is no longer in the person, the body goes what? Cold. The fire has left them. Okay, so this is simple. This is not like, ooh, Jamil, welcome to the conversation. This is not like, whoa, where did she go? This is like, observe yourself and your surroundings and look at the text and see what it is telling you, and how can you then begin to improve your walk or continue to improve your walk. And we're almost at the end. Just to talk about the fire, I did share about the fire. So I'm going to say, breaking it down. Moses, Exodus 32 and 19. It says, and it came to pass as soon as he came nigh unto the camp that he saw the calf and the dancing. And Moses, what? Anger did what? Wax hot. And he cast the tables out of his hands and broke them beneath the mount. That they usually talk about anger waxing hot. 33, 32 and 22, Shemo, Exodus. And Aaron said, let not the anger of the Most High do what? Wax hot. There's a connection between heat and certain emotions, like lust, like anger, like passion. These emotions are usually described in hot language, warm language, heating up type language. Crimes of passion, things of this nature. Love, warm. There was the sentiment is so nice to say, oh, that warmed my heart, right? So this is all language that we speak. And it's in our daily, you know what I mean, goings and comings. I went on to say, conversely, when someone grows cold, it means that they have disconnected or departed, or that the communication has ceased. In the same way in which a body grows cold, the body is no longer alive. In coveting, we allow ourselves to be connected with the object of desire via our thoughts. We imagine ourselves in possession of it. And more often than not, we begin to break down boundaries and barriers to possess that which is coveted. Okay? It's like the child who you said, don't do this. So what did he have to do? He had to get her to covet, because he didn't like force her hand and be like, go ahead and take it down. He had to get her to covet in the mind so that the barriers could begin to break down, and you begin to rationalize, well, it's not that bad. It's good for food. It's pleasant to the eyes. This is the rationale. And this takes place on a daily basis. This is what I'm trying to say. This is not just a story that's stuck in time, you know, and crystallized in the book of Genesis. This program takes place on a daily basis. This is how we rationalize many things in our life, man. Should I? Such. And then if we don't want to do it, we'll lean on this side. If we do want to do it, we'll lean on that side. And we have to find a balance. We just have to pay attention to people in our surroundings so we don't become victims of people with these wicked behaviors. Cain, as well as hopefully we're not the people, Sister Antonia Cain. We have to pay attention all around, all around. And lastly, what is the difference between good desire? Because there is a good desire, right? For the creator, for righteousness, for that which is upright, and coveting. What is the difference? Because somebody would say you can desire good, you can desire righteousness. What is the difference between coveting what is forbidden and what is someone else's? That's coveting. It's off limits to you and it belongs to someone else. And you want it, whatever it be, be it tangible or intangible, whatever looks good in our eyes, whatever we want onto ourselves. I've seen people come and they may, and it has no bounds because it's also attached to the ego. And so you'll have people who will have a lot, and you'll have somebody who has little to nothing, like in the case of Ahab and the field. And because I want it, for whatever the reason is, the mind will go about making ways to justify you wanting someone else's belongings. And so we have to find where in that equation do we stop the tape and autocorrect. Because oftentimes before we can stop the tape, we already done started plotting and scheming and planning of how we're going to do what it is we want to do. So lastly, deceit, deceptiveness, disguise, detrimental, destructive desire. I was reading up some things on coveting and I saw these list of these and I was like, I like that. So I'm going to share that this was within the text. Deceitful, because that's what it will lead you to do, lie. Deceptive, disguised, detrimental, destructive desire. That's what coveting ultimately will get us. And again, it's all throughout our society. It's interwoven throughout our daily social media. I was watching, I shared it as well, a video about fake something. It was our BBC Africa speaking about the dangers of social media and how it's built on wanting to get us to want what we don't necessarily need. And you see people spending thousands and thousands of dollars on surgery and fake behinds and fake breasts and fake hair and fake everything so that you can project the image that you really are not because you coveted it. But we don't see the backstory. We don't see the hurt. We don't see the pain. We don't see the sacrifice. We just see you pretending that it's all good. And this ultimately, in the end, doesn't make for a holistic approach or a holistic return or health or healing. Healing is swirling around that. And I think, a lot of it's coming from just the time that we're in. We also have like Yana Fix My Life on television. And we have all these thoughts about, I want my healing, but it's a process. Healing is a process. And so we have to first identify the viruses before we can say that we're going to cleanse them or cure them or fix them. And so this particular virus, again, is what I found to be the first one that entered into the consciousness. If somebody can find another one, feel free to share, and we'll have that discussion. With that said, I was able to do it. I'm asleep now. Hopefully that was helpful to someone somewhere. Share the video if you enjoyed, and join us back next time for another one of these interesting studies on Torah from a practical lens. All right? One. All right, YouTube. I'm gonna find out how to live stream this thing and show you the screen. So next time, hopefully, I'll get that figured out. All right. Talk to you later. Most High bless.